everyone. So I hope you had a good week of eclipse and full moon last Tuesday. And additionally, the 11/11 portal that all came in 1 week. So I don't know about you guys, but it was a highly energetic week, I would say. I just heard lifted you up. Lifted you up. And yet by lifting us up, the process was one of breaking down things, right? So I don't know if you experienced that, but I think we all had our own, I guess I'll just say awarenesses during last week. And very, very, very clearly, it is lining up with what they have said to me previously in the energy updates, the monthly energy updates about the steps up. The 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12 portals, steps up. I can feel it. The steps up. It's like we're on that next step up, and then we're moving into December, the 12/12, and then the winter solstice, right? So it's a really profound time. I hope you are leaning into these energies, the cosmic experiences as well. They're here for us to participate in, and they really matter. So that's not what this video is about today, but I just wanted to touch on that. I'm not going to go into much more at this point about what's going on right now because I've got a video for you that's probably about 45 minutes long. It's of Pete from Awakening Education. You've seen me talk to Roxanne before in some of the videos. It's her husband. So he and I are getting together today to talk about the spiritual awakening journey. Now, you may say, well, I already know about that. Well, I don't know. Do you? Do we all really? So what we're doing is we're unpacking it in a way that really simplifies the journey. And it also is giving you some of our experiences, some other experiences that we know about. And we're hitting on some things that I think will be, I don't know, it's kind of a comfort, particularly if you're newer to the journey, right? I think it'll help you really form this in a way where you can, they just said, see the simplicity in it, because there's a lot in the awakening journey that just shows up all of a sudden. It's like, oh my gosh, there's these pieces here, these pieces there. But if we can look at it very simply put and then be able to frame it up for ourselves and the things that we do day to day for ourselves and the awareness we gain, it becomes much more of a smooth process. So what we're going to cover today, Pete and myself, is we're going to talk, like I said, about what the spiritual awakening journey really is, and we're going to simplify it. We're going to unpack it in a simple way and just really kind of get on the ground and talk about it. And hopefully this will be helpful to you in moving forward and give you more comfort in this journey. Whether you've been doing this journey for a while or not, I know you're going to take something away from it. So within this conversation, we're going to give you some of our experiences and frame those up. We're also going to talk about some other experiences that we know about. We're going to talk about how the little things really matter in this journey. And again, we're going to give you some examples. How you choose to respond matters in this journey. And we learn to respond differently. We learn to start looking at things as the observer. What does that mean? The observer concept, and how do we get there? So we're going to talk about some of that. We're also going to talk about the higher mind and seeing things from a higher mind. And we have a whole lot more surrounding the whole idea of spiritual awakening and this ascension process. So stick with us today as we also use the metaphor of the Wizard of Oz again, which has come into a lot of my videos. So hopefully today you'll take at least a few things away that will be helpful for your journey. Like I've said, we're putting puzzle pieces together to create the puzzle of our own journey. So I always hope that in these videos you'll take a couple things away for your journey. And like I said, if the rest doesn't resonate, you just toss it aside because it's your journey, right? So I'm Carolyn, I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channeled messages, whether it be conversations like the one you're going to hear with Pete and myself today, or information like the energy updates that I do with the Light Keepers, who are a group of angelic beings who are assisting in us understanding the awakening and ascension journey. And you can check out all of my services on purplerainhealing.com, the links below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps me reach more people who might benefit from these messages and who are going through the awakening journey. So check out purplerainhealing.com for all of my services as well. You'll also see down below, there's a link that you can click where you can get more free content through my weekly email. What I do on Fridays is I send out a beautiful poetic message from the Light Keepers of support for you in your journey forward for that next week. That's what I use my email list for. So if you want more free content, you're going to get some beautiful messages from the Light Keepers who are so supportive of us in our journey. So with that today, I'm not going to go into a whole lot more because obviously there's always something we can talk about, but I want you to hear what Pete and I talk about today because I think there's nuggets regardless of where you're at in your journey. And I will wrap up with you in the end.
I'll tell you what happened yesterday. It was interesting, and let's go with it. I feel like this is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right thing to share with you. I jumped on with a client who's a regular, and she's got health challenges. And for whatever reason, we got the day wrong, the time wrong. We had to move it back a day. And I'm like, sorry. She's like, it's okay. I ended up just telephoning her because I didn't want to do it over email. Sometimes it's just nice to speak to someone. So I rang her and
Right.
I had that human conversation. And she's like, no problem. I know, but I really needed to speak to you today. And I was like, oh, gee, what's that? I could just feel it in her voice. But she goes, anyway, I can't do it now. I've got work, blah, blah, blah. Tomorrow, this time, let's do it. I'm like, all right, I'm there. Okay. We get on the call. She said, it was the best thing that we didn't speak yesterday because I just had a massive explosion at my husband and I erupted into all this anger and I don't want a session on my health today. I want something more to do with energetics. And from someone who's done lots and lots of going to the med bed, for aches and pains and that sort of thing, which don't get me wrong, I like doing that to help and be of service. However, as soon as she said, I feel like there's something more to this today, I was like, yes, right, let's get into this. I said, let's just stop talking now. Let's just go straight up there into that energy. And what I was getting is what I was building up to you is the different parts of her oversoul were starting to connect into her and she was becoming multidimensional. It's like she'd crossed that threshold of being caught up with just the physical vessel. And it took that emotional outburst for her to have this moment where she went, I think now it's so much more than just this physical thing. Tell me about all this energetic work you do. And I was like, well, how deep do you want to
Yeah.
go? And it was so great. I almost had a tear going, look at it go.
Oh, so when you were talking with respect to that specific situation, what I was seeing was when you're talking about multidimensional, but I was seeing all the parts of her start rejoining her. Does that make sense to you? Like
Absolutely.
coming like an explosion of this anger and upsetness in the argument. It's like this is interesting. It's showing kind of blew off the top of the teapot kind of thing, right? And then there was that entry, that allowance of the parts of her, the soul fragments of her to rejoin her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, the fact that you're saying you got those visuals, it's like you were there because, I mean, we're working in the same energy, but we're calling it slightly different things. But I had an Arcturian being come in behind her. She lit up 5 sections on her spine. 2 they showed me weren't active, but into that came like gold tubing going into the back of her spine. And I could see that one was a past and one was a future timeline. I could get that one was another dimension and another one was another aspect of herself in another
Yes.
timeline playing out, all starting to plug into her because as
Yes.
we ascend, all the fragments of our soul have to come back together because we ascend as a whole, hence going to 5D,
Right.
the level of wisdom. That's how we're going to know it all, so
Yeah,
to
yeah,
speak.
yeah. So it's so interesting you're talking about this because you and I have not had this conversation and probably aren't connected into fully the things that we do on our individual videos. But this has come through for me over the last, I would say, 6 months. Well, actually, this year, where so much of what's happening for individuals now is past lives coming back to rejoin into the oneness of us, into the consciousness of us. And we don't always know that. Obviously, not everybody knows their past lives, but when we're we're actually integrating those soul fragments, parts of us, and then we're also integrating our past lives. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And that's very much what's happening now in this journey. And that's why we can have all these physical reactions, all these crazy emotions. And it's the entering back into to be the oneness that we are.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have a jet flying over.
No problem.
Sorry, you'll have to edit that out, but otherwise
Oh,
we're
we
gonna have
can
a
leave that in. That just makes it more real. Yeah, so the
yeah.
other thing that came through, which was like the key for this for people, is that like they all hear it and will go, oh, that sounds great. I'd love that. But the importance in actually doing the work to get your vibrational state to that point where you can actually give your higher self permission to integrate.
Yes, that's it. In fact, that's our job. You just nailed it. If we, when people think about, well, what are we supposed to do in the awakening journey? I need to manifest. I need to this. The most important thing that they've talked about with me is to set that foundation up of self-care, which is the kinds of things you're talking about, like to be able to raise your frequency and vibration so that then guess what? Those things that you're talking about and that I'm talking about happen. They have the entry point. They just said entry point. There's an entry point for that because we have to reach a vibrational place where that's able to actually occur. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it
So
was
focusing on that, focusing on that individual journey of doing our work, whether that's all our self-care physically, whether it's leading into emotions, past traumas, all of that.
yeah. And even the most simple, I'm sure like we would have started with the same stuff back in the day. Like it was just motivation type stuff, self-help. But the internal dialogue, like the nature of your general thought during the day, has a major impact on your rate of vibration because you're thinking all day long. So if you're in a constant state of fear, worry, oh, I've got the, tax department thing going on, or I've got those bills. Oh, what's going on in the Ukraine? Oh my goodness, look at the price of fuel. Gee, that's getting expensive. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to cut. Like if you're constantly in that state all day long,
yes,
that in itself, like this, the nature of your thought can really be influencing your rate of vibration. So you can go to the gym and exercise and you feel really good and you've had a healthy breakfast and you're drinking your water and you're like doing all the things, and then you get in the car and you put that radio on and just, if it's the news talk channel or whatever that may be, and it just fills your head with all of this negative stuff and it drags that vibration down.
exactly. So what they're showing me as you're talking, they were showing, first of all, they said it's suppressive energy. So you'll have these blips on the screen, like if you're looking at let's say a monitor, right? Like a heart monitor, how those work. Like when you talked about going to the gym or eating a healthy breakfast, you get this blip, like this little blip up here. And then what you do to yourself is you start listening to the news and all of the things that you were talking about, and all of a sudden, so it has a momentary, they just said a momentary impact, but what we're looking for is that consistent impact of that higher vibration that we get when we do the things like have the healthy breakfast and then be able to exercise and make that the vibration we're in versus the blips on the screen and then we're down here all the time because we're in that suppressive energy of the news and all those other things that you talked about.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I love that because as you were speaking, I was getting people, I feel like what we're going to be talking about today is things that people can actually do. Because sometimes we get caught up in the excitement of the big picture, but the day-to-day is people can actually do things to increase the likelihood of their vibration going up, then them being able to connect in. I think a great point also would be to say, well, how do you know when your vibration's going up? And I think one of the big ways to know is that you start noticing synchronicities and sensitivities and feelings, knowings, vibrate. When you walk in, you can feel the room or you can feel a person. Oh, they seem like they've got something on their mind today. And, then you jump in the car and it's 7-Eleven and you're driving down the road and whatever it might be, you see a fractal off the side of a cloud as the sun's just there and you see a pattern. And it's like, oh, wow, look at that. And when you're in that
Mhm.
state, you're not listening to the news. You're not worried about the price of fuel or what's going on in the Ukraine or Korea or etc. You're in that now moment, hence the book, The Power
Yes,
of Now, right? And how we choose our vibrational
exactly.
state in the now. I love it.
Exactly. They're talking about okay, hold on a second. I just wrote this down. I can't read it. Oh, so another, well, okay. Two ways that I wrote down as you were talking about things that we can, how we can actually see our vibration shifting and changing, because it is a little how do I want to say this? It we expect it to be obvious to us as humans, but it's kind of not. It's this subtlety that happens over time. I think
Yes.
you've noticed that probably yourself. So
Yes.
again, it's a patience practice. The whole thing is, but things start to come together, click together. There's a smoother alignment of things that are meant for you in your day, or that are helpful to you in your day. I guess the most obvious one is when we get parking places, but I have a gazillion examples from just this week. And even like, for example, and I wish I could think of a couple for you, but I think the general idea is what we start seeing is, oh, okay, there's those intersections. This is what they're showing now. They're showing like a crossing, an intersection. Those intersections move smoothly. The traffic moves smoothly, rather than everybody stopping or running into each other. Things work out and they flow as they're meant to for you, and you start to notice that. The other thing is that even if we have a desire to shift and change our habits, like I'll just use my example that I've used before, is I really kind of wanted to just completely stop drinking. I was like, I was always a weekend, let's have our drinks and kind of thing my whole life, right? And I just thought, I kind of don't want to do this anymore. But it was such a habit for all those years that, I still was doing that. But then what would happen is I would notice that I couldn't tolerate it. And it wasn't like a hangover. It was a vibrational hangover, right? So like for 3 days, I'd have to deal with 3, 4 days, deal with this strange feeling. And so my point in this is, what starts to happen is you get shifted up as you're moving into your new vibration. You can't tolerate this is a way you can tell. You can't tolerate the things you did at this lower vibration. So that's a way that people can start to tell, like, oh, I'm shifting out of really desiring to, I don't know, eat meat, or, there's a gazillion different examples, right? So,
Oh, and what about people? What about the people that you can't be around anymore? It's like
oh yeah,
that they bring in that vibe and that
yeah,
whatever it might be. I was around someone the other day who it's just the father of a friend of mine, but I forgot how, as a person who's constantly picks at someone and every comment is sarcastic
mhm,
and like a jab, like they're constantly jabbing at it. They can't just be nice. They can't
yeah.
just say, well, whatever we were talking about. It was something so simple as there was a load of wood
It's that
in the
it's
back
that
of the
heavy
car.
energy. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and it
heavy
was the
energy. Yep.
heavy energy. And I thought, I just don't want to be around this guy much longer. Like, I'm not going to
Mhm,
project.
mhm.
I'm not upset as such. He's not bringing anything up in me that's unhealed that I need to go under. But I'm also not going to just sit there in the energy and pretend I don't notice it, because I do.
Right.
I was polite and I got out of there. I was like, go on.
Well, and I think, and maybe that's an example of this, but I think also the one thing that is interesting to notice in this journey is, and we can sit here and say, oh, well, those are choices we made, but they're not. They're kind of not. It just happens, and you shift out of it. The awakening ascension journey, as we do our core foundational self-care, and we can talk all day long about what that is, but the primary self-care and leaning into dealing with the things that are coming up for us, and really, walking in a parallel pathway with our journey and not turning a blind eye to it. Naturally, these things start shifting for us. It's not like, for example, you've known him for a while, probably, right? You didn't just all of a sudden, I mean, it wasn't, at one point he was somebody that you could be around, and now it just doesn't work,
Yes.
right? So that's kind of how this works, is these things work for us. It's not like we said, oh, I'm going to go do this like we do in our human form, and we go accomplish a goal and we have steps to get there. it's a vibrational and difference, and it feels different too as it shifts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we say this, but it's I really start to really believe it now. Like notice it, feel it. Everything happens for a reason. Even the fact
Totally.
that guy was there when I was delivering the wood and came out and we had that exchange, for me to even have the awareness of how far I've come. Like you could see events don't matter, you know, it's only a state of mind or your level of awareness that matters, how you choose to respond to it. So for me, it was an amazing, I guess, opportunity for me to see how far I've come, how much more aware of energy I am now than when I was like when you and I first met like 3.5 years ago. I remember I'm like, my brother Dan says I've got to do this session with you. You know, I'm like, I'm really interested. Like you met me and I was like so new on the path. Like, but something in there was like, but I just want to do this, you know, from an insurance guy to all of a sudden going down this path.
Right. Exactly. You know, and what just came in as you were talking also is the difference in the spiritual journey compared to just living the life we lived before we woke up is we've always, you know, most people think, oh, it's the big things, you know, we got to work on, you know, to have the big things happen. And so then in the spiritual journey, we have a tendency to think, okay, I'm ready for the big thing. I'm ready for the next big thing. No, it's a series of all these little things, like you just said, that we used to think were mundane and didn't matter. And what I've realized is even our errands that we do each day, and I have some profound examples of just running errands or getting a flat tire and having a situation where I was very much put out with that, but all these magical things happened and there was purpose in me having the flat tire and what led to that, and having me go to the 2 places to get it fixed within that hour. There was a magical reason for it. So point being is, it's not those big things we're waiting for, these big milestones. It's every single day, those little things that we do every day.
I just love that we can have this conversation and then you just give an example. I had a flat tire 2 weeks ago and Roxy says to me, oh my gosh, that must have just, you know, completely wrecked your day. I said, oh, it's actually so good. Like you just said. I said, I bumped into Andy, who I haven't seen for 20 years when I went down that place to the tire shop, and we reconnected and we're messaging now. And I'm like back with this old, like dear friend that I had 20 years ago. And it was like, boom.
Yeah, and I'll give you the detail of mine since you gave yours because it's fascinating. So I got this flat tire literally just going into town, and which is all of a mile. And fortunately, the Toyota dealership's right here. I get this flat tire. I drive in. It's a holiday, I don't know, the next weekend or something, and they're totally busy. It's the middle of winter. And they said, we can't get you in today. I said, it's just me. I have one car. What am I going to do? And they're like, well, let us call the tire shop down the street. So they called the tire shop, and they're like, and he's on the phone with me, right? Or yeah, he's on the phone with me and he's like, oh, we can't get you in. There's absolutely no way. And I just went, I said, all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, angels, we need to do something here. I said, something needs to happen. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, this guy comes back and he goes, hold on, I'm going to talk to my manager. I think we can get you in. And I mean, literally, it was like that fast. He comes back, he says, yeah, come on over. And I'm just like, okay. So I drive over. I sit there. I'm the only one with 3 older gentlemen sitting at the counter. They work on my tire. They get it fixed. But while I was there, of course, you know how as an intuitive, you start knowing things and feeling energy. I got a download that the one man that was there needed a lot of help. I also had gotten, and I know this might sound like, well, how would you know? But this is the download I got, was that he had an alcohol issue and an unhappy home life. And I could just tell by looking at him, the older gentleman, and there was what they said to me is, you being there shifts the energy. You need to be there to interact with him. This is as I'm waiting for the tire to get fixed, right? And so I'm like, I knew, because he was working with me. And so as I worked with him, I was really working with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so my inconvenience for probably 3 hours that entire afternoon was literally all for purpose. That was a huge download I got. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, you know, we don't know how we affect people as we leave them. And that's not for us to know. But there was purpose in me getting that flat tire to then get sent over to this tire shop to encounter this gentleman who, as I could very much tell, seeing him, was troubled. He just was not a happy man. But anyway, that was my example. Isn't it fascinating how those little things we do each day? So what we want to really do is frame up our day differently. Like nothing is an inconvenience. It's purposeful.
Yeah, everything. Like every conversation. It's absolutely like amazing. And, you know, we bring this back to vibration. The higher vibrational you are, the more you see the patterns, the more you see the synchronicities, the more you see the meaning, the more awareness you have of whatever's going on. It was like before the call, I mentioned to you about the client I had who had to reschedule, and it turned out to be divinely perfect for her. Well, what she got led to was the fact that she had a big explosion at her husband and got triggered about something. And we went into what was under the anger. And she said, you know, Pete, I actually started to notice myself going under the anger. She went, I got angry at him. And normally I'd say, oh my gosh, this guy, he does this and he does that and da, da, da. She said, but I went under there and I realized that I was unacknowledged and unappreciated. And she said, you know, I even could get to the unloved for myself as a child. You know, and I was sitting there, as I said to you, going, look at you go, you know, like that awareness of self, that's the vibration going up.
Yeah, and that's part of what happened there for her was she was able, and this is what they're showing me, even a little amount of space between the emotion that was going on between the two of them allowed her to become more of the observer to what was happening and what was happening underlying all of this for her, so she could identify the things you just mentioned.
Yes.
So when we create space between the heavy human thing that's going on, we create space between those emotions, say for example between two people, we can step back and we have breathing room. We actually have energetic breathing room to go, okay, hold on. And this is what I always tell everybody is, okay, take a breath. Try to be aware you're going down, you know, because we have certain relationships in our journey that are going to challenge us all the time, you know, usually our closest family members, right? And so it's knowing when that's happening and just have your plan to breathe and then step back, like create the space, even if it's a little bit of quietness, because it'll allow you to get to the things that she was able to get to, but then also hopefully to react differently as well.
Exactly.
Than you would normally.
Well, because of course, as soon as you realize that interaction was a gift for her, a gift for her to see the unhealed parts of herself, and that the way he was acting is actually, if you really want to go there, a reflection of his unhealed little boy who had a need to be loved. And I'll tell you briefly, because it's not that important, but it was like that he was too helpful and borderline flirty with other females, and she erupted this one time because she was tired and whatever, and he was all nice and da-da-da-da-da to someone on a plane flight or something, and, you know, nothing big, but it just triggered her. But then underneath that, I asked her just quickly, I just said, as a child, did he have a big need? Was he overlooked? Did he have, you know, issues with recognition, love and appreciation from his mother? She goes, oh my gosh, you're spot on. I go, well, he's still, that pattern's still playing out in him now in seeking validation from females.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what so much of this journey is. It's unraveling those inner child kinds of situations. And then of course we have, as you know, past life situations too that pop in, which is and they can actually show up in our human journey because we're doing our lives with very often some of those same people, right? Yeah. But the inner child stuff is really fascinating because that's a lot. It's probably a lot of the work that you do. And it's also a lot of the work I do of helping people unravel what's going on in their current journey. And a lot of what you find is what's happened in the early journey. In fact, it's interesting you say that. That's why I start my sessions out when I do well, it doesn't matter what session I do, is I always have them go back, because I basically facilitate conversations between their spirit team and themselves, and I'm the facilitator. And so what I do is I have them tell me about their from birth to present day in a summary, so that we understand what's going on, right? And then that helps us understand what's happening today, potentially because of what happened early on. So it's interesting.
Don't you love the ones who say, no, it's all been good. I've pretty much had a cruisy life and everything's going well at work and everything's coming together then. Oh, really? That's excellent.
Yeah, no.
Let's
Okay.
go a bit deeper, hey? And it doesn't take much longer. And they go, oh, yeah, but mum never actually, I don't think I ever heard her say that she loved me. Oh, right. Well, that could be something. Oh, yeah. And then there was the thing that dad was always away and we always moved house. So I had no stable. So, you know, and then you look at the reflection of what's going on in their life. And you can very easily guide someone through helping them raise their own awareness to see their own patterns. Because it's not about us working out. It's about them going, oh my gosh, I see it now. Oh my goodness,
Exactly.
my mother or my father. Oh, this happened with my grandmother to my mother to now me. Oh my goodness. That's what's playing out in my life.
And I don't know if I mentioned this in the video with Roxanne previously or not, but I know I've mentioned in some of my videos, is that what I've always been told by my team is, you know, it's mind, body, soul. And they said, what's the part that hasn't come along for the journey yet is the human mind. So the body always knows, because it carries the memories and the information, whether it's from this lifetime or past lifetimes, in our cellular memory, right? In our body. And as we know, lots of times people can exude health issues and problems because they've held emotion in or held some trauma in, right? So the body talks to us all the time. We just haven't been taught to listen to it, right? Well, the soul, of course, is all-knowing, understanding, but the human mind, when we're able to do the trio, the mind, body, soul, and the human comes along for the journey and says, oh my God, and it clicks, and they're like, oh my gosh, guess what? That's when healing starts to happen, because the body gets it, the mind, and you can actually heal your body this way by having that recognition and then working through those things. And a lot of times those physical symptoms are going to start to lift over time, right? Because you've carried it with you for so long. So mind, body, soul start clicking together when the human goes, oh my God, Eureka.
Yes.
And and then it really can click in. That's why that's the work that you're doing, you know?
Yeah. I love your term, the observer. I always remember my brother, Dan, right, who we both know and love very well. So for those watching, Dan started on his spiritual journey, but before I did, and recommended that I have a session with Carolyn to just find out some more about myself, my soul, my etc. And afterwards we got talking, and his number one tip, and I love Dan because he's a man of few words, and he said, Pete, all you've just got to do at the start is just be the observer. Just be the observer. That was as simple as he put it. And you know, when you just said those things, it's like you could be the observer of your body, the observer of your mind, the observer of your spirit. And if you're aware, that's what becoming awake is. Like when someone says, I'm having an awakening, all it is waking out of the slumber of mindlessly eating, drinking, working, emotionally expressing when you're asleep. And as soon as you become aware of you doing that, massive progress happens because you are aware of self. And and we go back to this, everything in the universe happens for a reason. So there's patterns, there's fractals, there's sacred geometry all around us. Everything is divinely placed. If you're asleep, we call it chance, luck, bad luck, good luck, chance.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It happens, people say. But the more aware, the more awake, the more alert you are, you go, oh, God, look at that. That happened for a reason, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And simply put, I mean, because, you know, the awakening ascension journey can be very complex in understanding and all the things that do happen. But essentially, what they just said to me is similar to what you said, but they said, we are literally waking up to ourselves. Okay. It's ourselves. We're waking up to ourselves. And so what we're doing is we're bringing all that energy that we've externalized for so long, and we've defined ourselves by the external world in so many ways, belief systems, institutions. I mean, you know, you can go on and on, social media, like you have to be this way, you have to be that way. And so what we've done is we've given ourselves away. And now what we're doing in the awakening journey, it's about bringing that back into ourselves to be able to understand who we truly are and to be able to speak our truth, to be able to follow our dreams, rather than what we've been taught in modern society for so long is, oh no, you want to be like them, or you want to be like this, or you have to go this route, you have to go this path, and oh, you better get the approval from. I mean, all of that, you can really start going through that understanding of how that's impacted you in your life, right? Like how you've been molded to be something that the external world kind of wanted you to be, to one degree or another. We all do it, right?
Yeah.
So this is waking up to ourselves. It's waking up to ourselves.
That's right. And I agree that sometimes we've got so much information at our disposal now that people go, oh, look, it all actually just seems so overwhelming, and they don't do anything. They don't change a thing. And I think that, as we were just saying, simply being aware, being the observer is a great place to start. And then when you get a couple of tools to use that and go in and under that emotion, or into that physical imperfection in the physical body, or into that relationship issue that may be playing out in your life or whatever, and observing it and trying to get to see what it's trying to show you, because there's a theme too often, the emotional injuries or the lessons that our soul has come in to learn. They are often as a theme for the person. So if you see the theme, you can learn the lesson. And when you get the lesson, you can embrace it. You don't escape it, but it's like you see it from a higher perspective. As like I shared with you how my dog passed away recently. And well, it's Roxy's dog, a little female, beautiful little dash hound, like broke my heart. Roxy's away, happens on my watch. The same emotions from when I was 5 and my little sister drowned because the big brother, me, took her down to the creek and she fell off the bridge and died. Like, holy heck, I could not have shared that with people, 3 years ago. I wouldn't get on a call and even talk about that. It's like, oh yeah, love and sunshine, but I'm not going there. You know what I mean? And it's like, now
that shows how much healing you've done to be able to do that now.
Whoa, look at the same things playing out to get my soul to feel those emotions of responsibility, guilt, shame. How are you going to love yourself after that? Look, it's happened again. Bang. And then how are you going to respond this time? Look, there's how you responded 40 years ago, and then there's now.
Right. And like I had said to you, because we had kind of chatted a little bit about this, was this is the time where these things, and as a human, what you could have done is you could have said, oh my God, I've done it again, and then shame yourself and then go back to that place, right? But no, the understanding of this is what happens in this awakening journey is we'll do this massive healing like you did on this situation with your sister. And then what it does is it comes back in a different form because it's dust in the corners of the room. We're clearing out everything. We can't leave anything undone. So it comes back in not so much as a test, but to say, is there still something there? Let's just with a fine-tooth comb clean this out. And so what you were able to see there is, yes, you felt the suffering, but also you were able to see the progress you had made in that.
And don't you just love it when life gives you those situations and you say, I thought I'd worked on this shit. I thought I'd looked at it from every angle. I talk about this stuff every day. Why is this, and then I get a flat tire, and then this, and then that, and if you're not careful, you can go, oh, forget it. Or you can go, oh, wow, look at this. Thank you.
That's actually, you can kind of boil this journey down to it being simple in the sense of what we need to do. And it's all about being aware, right? Being aware. So as you're aware, things are going to come to you naturally. It's all going to just show up, but you got to be aware, and then you have to embrace the learning opportunity. Okay, rather than turn that blind eye and say, I'm not doing this, to your point, right?
Yes.
Because we do have that choice. We can turn a blind eye, but they come back, they come to us just like, it's like, okay, they just brought this to me again, and they use this a lot. Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, you know how she took the yellow brick road. She took her time, patience. She took the bricks one at a time, but look what showed up in her journey. She didn't plan that. She just kept walking the yellow brick road, and all these things showed up in her journey. That's what happens in this one. We just have to be able to be aware and embrace the opportunity for that learning.
I got a massive thing then when you were that's a really important point. I felt it. It's like they don't make movies about the happily ever after part, you know, that they're in the castle or on the hill, or they make the movie about how people go from struggle, despair, and whatever, and the journey to get to, let's call it the castle or the whatever. People want to know about the struggle, the journey, questioning themselves, divine help coming along the way, someone doing them a good deed, the sacrifice, the story is what it's all about, not the happily ever after part. That's like, oh, right. Then they lived happily ever after.
Right. Well,
like, that's what we came in for.
Yes. And so, you know, you hear people say, well, when I'm done with the awakening, or when I reach enlightenment, I'm done, like that goal, then you're done. You know, I've said, and I've been told this, we're never really done. We keep learning. That's the whole idea of being a soul in a human body, is the continued growth and continued learning till the day we choose to leave this earth plane and start it all over again, right? So and yes, we want to keep continuing to grow in ourselves and improve the lot in our life, and, you know, achieve abundance, whatever that means for us. But it will continue to show, life will continue to show us, the awakening journey will continue to show us. We don't reach this pinnacle of height and then we wave at everyone and we say, well, I'm done. And yes. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've really noticed that as well in the energy. It's like, we don't need to necessarily have World War III or a meteor hit the ocean or a big earthquake or days of darkness or blah, 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 blah. We're created beings. Through our vibration, we can choose lots of different timelines. Nothing's locked in. So as we, as awakened souls who share about this and do the work on ourselves, and then of course you be the light to the guy at the tire shop, or to someone at the grocery store, or to wherever you may be. People go, be it to the mother at the school, be it to a colleague at work, be the light, the positive influence. That ripple effect, that term, the rising tide lifts all of the boats. As we raise our tide, we're lifting up all the others with us. And I was in a session the other day, and this Pleiadean dropped in, because they're so witty, Carolyn. Like, I'm in there, I'll laugh in a session with someone. I'll go, sorry, I've got to share this with you.
Oh, I know.
I know I'm in that energy, because I just start joking. And I said to this lady who was like just struggling with, I feel like sometimes I'm so connected and then I've got to do emails. Oh, then I've got to go do groceries or put fuel in my car. And she's like, I didn't come down here for this shit, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I heard a whisper in my ear, before enlightenment, you chop wood and cart water. Then after enlightenment, you still chop wood and cart water. And I told her that, and she's like, I don't know what you mean. And I'm like, there's no getting out of chopping wood and carting water. What happens is chopping wood and carting water doesn't change, you change.
Yes. Yes. Oh God, that's so good.
Yeah, so you could be chopping the wood enlightened and carting the water enlightened, and instead of going, this sucks, I'm carting water again.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's going to stick with me. That is so true. Yeah. It's so true.
And that's the journey, right? That's the doing.
That's the journey. It's not that we're going to get to that point of a point, right, where we're done and we sit there with our gold crown on and we wait for others to join us and we just eat bonbons all day. We just don't.
Yes.
You know, I mean, but here's one thing I want to make a point of. I'm glad we got to this point. What I have found is that as we continue through this awakening journey, what does happen is we start understanding our own patterns, our own journey, our own processes better, so that when things do show up, we flow better. We were able to manage through it better. And pretty soon it's this smooth flowing, like dance with what's brought from the awakening journey to us. Whereas before in the early journey, it's like, oh God, what's this? No. And all these, and the energies and everything is just, but what we now do is we've acclimated, they just said acclimated, and we also have blended with this journey. So it becomes I don't say easier. It becomes more fluid. They just said a more fluid journey.
Right. Because we're more aware, because our vibration's higher. And with all of that, let's go right back to where we started this conversation, where the different aspects of ourselves are integrating. So our higher mind, our oversoul, whatever term we want to give it, which is like on the mountaintop, looking at us down in the Grand Canyon, navigating, can go, you know what, up ahead here, I know it looks smooth, but go to the left where it's a little bit rockier, because up ahead, the bridge is out. And you get a feeling, I think I'm going to go to the left here. Now, logically, your mind's going, why the heck am I walking that way? It looks rockier and it's a little bit hillier and unsettled. But your higher mind's going, no, the bridge is out. You're going to have to turn around and go back. You're going to, you're going to waste time. And if you're tuned in, you go, you know what, I'm going left. And you go left and you go around and you cross on the fallen log or whatever that may be. It's this brain of ours, it really only stores information from the past experiences, past knowledge that we've learned, things that we've accumulated along the way. So when someone asks me about manifestation, I say the brain can only help you get to where you want based on what you know and what you've experienced so far. So you need to go beyond your gray matter brain. You need to tap into your whatever we're going to call this now, your creativity, your intuition, your higher mind, your synchronicity, your luck. But your higher mind is going, go left now, because you're going to save a lot of time, because you'll dodge that bridge that's out. You'll go to the tire shop and meet that person or this person, or you'll have this opportunity here or there, and everything's going to work out. So this is where the trust and not being attached to the outcome, I think, becomes really, really powerful.
Yes, because what it does is when we don't have trust and we have fear and all of that, we have this tight energy that it can't get in and help us, right? We can't connect in. We need to be in that smooth flowing energy of trust and patience. And that's that allowing energy, right? To allow that helpfulness of the higher mind. Something else I was going to also mention along the same lines we're just talking about is the other thing with the awakening journey is, and I kind of mentioned this, is the idea of understanding your own patterns in the awakening journey, because everybody's a little bit different. And I'll give you an example. I didn't know squat about full moons, new moons, never kept track of it. I didn't have a clue what was what. Eclipses, a solstice would go by. I didn't know. And and then I wake up, right? Well, I now know how my body and my emotions handle the moon cycles, particularly the moon cycles. Okay. So like full moons, new moons, I know that my process is going to be for the feeling that I'm going to have and what's going to potentially happen a few days before. So those are the kinds of things that we start realizing is, okay, this is how I flow through this typically. It's not like maybe always going to be that way, but you're going to start learning your patterns. It makes it so much easier. You start flowing with the awakening journey, as I had mentioned. So it's really understanding your patterns. That's why I always say journaling, particularly in the early years of your journey, is so helpful, because we don't know anything in the early journey, most of us, right? And so it's nice to be able to go back and to be able to read and go, oh yeah, oh, that's my pattern. Oh, I had this, this, and this. So
I wish I had a journal more. I really, I think
me too.
I would have really enjoyed that. Yeah, I love that point, and I feel like for someone watching this, like there's so much information for someone who is like new but excited. Do you get what I mean? Because very often you can go off on tangents. I'm sure you would agree. Like there's that slippery slope of people going down conspiracy theory type tracks. Or people waiting for something to happen because then they'll take action
Yes.
all of that sort of thing. It's like, oh, when this happens, oh, my life's going to be so much better. You know, when the currency reset happens, oh my goodness, then I'll be happy. When finally we get rid of this government, then I'll be happy. When I can get rid of my leg pain, then I'll be happy. So they make their whole happiness contingent on something outside themselves. So, but remember, circumstances don't matter, only state of mind. So the time now that the thing to do is to work on the vibration, because happiness, like joy, I love, is right up there near love and peace on David Hawkins' scale of consciousness. Like for the soul to graduate, Hawkins talks about how we've got to get over 500 on the scale of consciousness. So the love, the compassion, empathy, understanding, but right up there is happiness and peace and enthusiasm, like a good life, enjoying your life. So we don't have to sit in a puddle of peacefulness on a hill in Tibet like gong and bells to be a spiritual person, because they're only experiencing a narrow band of vibration. And what I've been getting a lot lately is the distortions in the field make this such a learning experience for our soul. Like Earth is unique because we do a lot of that galactic stuff, and I've been getting Earth's unique in that the pattern's not easy to read, because when you think you've got it worked out, something comes along to throw you, and those distortions, those, you know what I mean? Otherwise, someone smarter than us would work it out and go, this is the pattern to life, and if you follow this pattern, it's all going to be easy, right? But it's not like that, because the distortions make our soul grow. That's the gift of...
Well, and I think too, to the point you just made, I think also the distortions are our unique journey. So it gets distorted for us because it has to show up for our unique journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Something else I was going to mention that came in as you're talking about this is another thing that we have a tendency to do. You were talking about the kind of sitting back, not doing really things, having things just happen. Well, there are those of us, and I kind of fell into this category until I realized it pretty quickly, is overachievers. Like, no, I need to do, and I need to do this thing, and I need to do the next thing, and I need to have a project plan to get the thing done, and then to achieve and get the awakening done. Cross, like, check.
Yes,
like, I need a checklist. It's true. I mean, you know, there are a lot of people I've run into that it's like, no, I how do I make this faster? And I need to do the thing. And I'm like, no, that's not your job. That is not your job. It's that your job is to grow patience, which most of us don't have to one degree or another, right? And overachievers have a tendency to have like no patience, right? And so it's like really about finding that idea of flow and being able to just focus on those things that are coming your way and work on your self-care and your self-study and your self-awareness. Honestly, you could boil it down to that. And then as you do that, raise your vibration in all the things you're doing day to day and the new choices you're making for what serves you, right? And getting rid of the things that don't serve you. All these things are going to open up to you for you to be able to experience, and then the synchronicity and all this. So it's kind of, I mean, you can kind of get it down to some basic things.
Yeah. I love that. I get, like, when you go, they share those, I get this image of, you know, our life is like the pond with the ripples on the water. And when someone becomes aware, they're like, I've got to smooth out the ripples. But you don't smooth out the ripples by trying to pat them down. You've got to just sit back, observe, and as they say, wait for the mud to settle or wait for the waters to smooth. So being aware of the ego, the doer, you know, non-doership, where a person says, I want to be awakened. What do I do? Well, there's the first thing, you know.
Right.
Don't do anything. Just become aware, as we talked about right at the beginning. Be the observer and watch what's going on. And as things go along, I got one the other day. I was in a session with someone, Carolyn, you'll love this. They dropped into me, don't be the archaeologist, be the observer. You know, so don't try and dig things up.
That's good.
Yeah, don't go along and go, what's there something wrong with me? Yeah, back at school, this, that. Like, don't be the archaeologist. Just be the observer when things come up. So you inquire when you get triggered, you inquire when you feel like something's going on, but you don't need to sit there going, I think I'm broken. Maybe I'll
Right.
journal and see if I can get, no.
Yes. Exactly.
I've got it.
It's not like
It was be the
it's not like having to
explorer.
dig it up.
Sorry, be the explorer, not the archaeologist. I knew the word had come back to me. I had to get it.
Well, but that archaeologist makes sense because you're digging for stuff. Like I'm digging for stuff, you know? I mean, you don't have to be the archaeologist. Oh God, that's so good. I love that. It's so true. Because the things that are meant for us to show up that they're there for you already. It's just when it's timed for you, it's going to show up. And I think the key there, and I know then probably I don't know what time it is. Oh wow. Okay.
We gotta
So
go
anyway,
soon. I know you're on a time schedule.
No, that's okay. I think the key there too, then, just to comment on this, is when things do come into our awareness, we can have a tendency to, oh, that's too difficult, that's too painful, I don't want to deal with that. So you look at it, you see it happening, and you get through the thing you're going through. But then what we do oftentimes is we stop there and we miss the growth opportunity, the learning, and the kind of the more, and now I'm saying digging deep, but when it shows up, it's like the learning of like, wait, what's the root cause of this? Why did I get triggered or whatever? Or why did I behave the way I did? What's going on there? Rather than going, oh, I did that again, and then just going about your day and then having it happen again, right? Because the learning is in the understanding, right, of why those things occurred.
Yes.
And why you behaved the way you did.
We could do a whole lot on being the explorer, because being the explorer is seeing those opportunities, because otherwise you're spiritually bypass, right? And you react. So you go to anger, you go, oh, wow, I reacted. Oh, well, I fell into that anger and it felt good to express it out. And then I went home and I had a, glass of lemon juice and flushed my liver and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, well, what was under the anger?
Exactly.
Oh, just some childhood stuff, but I worked on that years ago. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because that's the dust in the, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody has dust in the corners. We think we've done that part of that thing. I've had it so many times where mine has shown back up this just in the last couple of years. And particularly, I think in the last couple of years for people, this has really started to happen, right? And it's like, oh God, that's back. Okay, why is that back? Or that person's back, or in some way, or that lesson is back, but it's coming in a different form. So again, it goes back to being really very aware. And I think also this is part of being very aware, also is tied to starting to be able to just be and kind of decide on things that, like, freeing up space, right? Like not overdoing all day long in your human journey, because you don't have any space then for some of this to come in and for you to become aware. So I think what happens to some people, and I know a couple folks right now who they know they're on their journey, and these are actually friends of mine. They know they're on their journey, and bless their hearts, but they're like digging themselves deeper in their current situation, okay? Because what's happened is it's come up for revisiting, and they're like, no. And so they're like, not doing this, okay, right? But as we know, with the awakening journey, if that person is meant to go through this process in this lifetime, they're just going to get, a little bit hammered harder until they recognize it.
That's why they call it the spring clean, because I think we need to do it regularly, yeah. And each time you get better as a cleaner, right? Each time you find little nooks and crannies that you missed in the other times, right? Because you're getting better at it, because you're growing. And then, of course, the key, what we shared, is all of a sudden you don't look at it as cleaning. You look at it as lovely, right? You don't go, oh shit, I've got to clean. You're like, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's explore what we're getting into. Look at this little thing I found here in behind this crack. Oh, there's some good dusty bit in there, and there's some unworthiness, or there's some old unloved or whatever. And you're like, wow, I'm so glad I saw that. My soul came in to feel that, and now I'm aware of it, and I've recognized it. Blessed. Oh, love it. Love this journey. Yes, this is so good.
Yeah. And I
you
think
might have felt like that, might you? But
yeah. And see, that goes to, and a lot of people can be fearful about what's going to come up the next time or the next time or the next time. But the thing is, we get better at doing this per what I said earlier. We start understanding our processes and how we handle this, and how, honestly, lots of times things will, as we recognize and we do our work, they'll clear pretty fast, right? Because I mean, they'll shift. The energy will shift because we become aware and we like accept this and we start making the changes that we need to make.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting on a roll now, because then they just said to me in my head then that that's a hello darkness, my old friend. Come to meet with you again. You know, it's like, oh
my God, that's a great way to express that.
Yeah. Oh, listen, the Pleiadians give you the funny. Well, I don't know if we. I'd love actually for people watching this, if they like, give us some feedback, you know, on how you liked the session with Pete and Carolyn, you know, and if you didn't like it, no worries, let me know. But, you know, we could alternate every once in a while. If it's not Roxy, it could be me, if you'd like to, because I love it.
I love doing this. So well, and for people that don't know me, I actually channel regularly for my own YouTube channel, but I enjoy more than anything doing it with someone else, because it's just because what I always find is somebody gets something, then I'll get something, that other person will get something, and then we build this story, like we play off of each other and we get more information. So the other thing I would say too, if people have ideas or things that they really want us to have conversation about, let us know.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. They could suggest something on a particular topic that they'd like to know more about.
Because typically, how I work is literally just a topic, just need to give a topic, and then things just starts. We just start having conversation and things will start coming in. So this has been so much fun working with you today, Pete.
I love that. Went like that.
So thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to check out Roxanne and Pete on their website, awakeningeducation.com, for all of their services. It's also linked in the description box below, as are my services, purplerainhealing.com, where I offer all kinds of channeled information as well as distance energy healing. The one-on-one mentoring is also very, very popular, where there's the opportunity to work with me one-on-one over a period of time that you select and decide upon. And then we help unpack your soul journey and how it lines up with your current life journey, helping you through your awakening. So check out all of my services. And again, I thank you so much for joining me as we move into the end of 2022. Can you believe it? All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video.